Today we're going to talk about the sulfur cycle. Sulfur, an essential element for the macromolecules of living things. As a part of amino acid cysteine, it is involved in the formation of disulfide bonds between proteins, which help to determine their three defolding patterns and their functions. Sulfur plays a large role in the health of ecosystem. Sulfur has atmospheric cycle, meaning that it cycles between the atmosphere and the ecosystem, which is the land and the ocean. The sulfur cycle is the collection of processes by which sulfur moves from rock, waterways, and living systems. Now, I will explain through the figure. The figure shows the sulfur cycle between the ocean's land and atmosphere. Atmospheric cycle is found in the form of sulfur dioxide, SO2, and enter the atmosphere in three ways. The decomposition of organic molecules from the volcanic activity and geothermal vents, from the burning of fossil fuel by humans. On land, sulfur is deposited in four major ways: precipitation, direct fallout from atmosphere, rock weathering, and geothermal vents. Sulfur compounds do return to land in dry particle or dissolve. Sulfur dioxide, SO2, from the atmosphere becomes available to terrestrial and marine ecosystem when it is dissolved in precipitation as weak sulfuric acid, H2SO4, and when fall directly to the earth as fallout. The sulfur content in rock that originate from ocean sediments move to land by geologic uplifting. Terrestrial ecosystems that make use of dissolved sulfate and the decomposition of organics release sulfur into atmosphere as hydrogen sulfate, H2S gas. Sulfur enters the ocean through runoff from land, atmospheric fallout, and geothermal vents. Some ecosystems rely on chemoautotrophs for using sulfur as energy source. The sulfate then support the marine ecosystem in form of marine sulfate.
Sulfur dioxide is a gas. Sulfur dioxide easily reacts with the other substance to form the harmful compounds such as sulfuric acid and the sulfate particles. About 99% of sulfur dioxide come from the human activity. The main source of the sulfur dioxide is from the burning of the fossil fuel and coal. So this is the area of the factory that burning the fossil fuel. So the factory will release the sulfur dioxide. So the sulfur dioxide will react with the water and oxygen and form a sulfuric acid, that is acid rain. So when the acid rain fall to the ground, it can cause the acidifies to the soil, and it is not suitable for plantation. Plant is important to convert the carbon dioxide to the oxygen. So when the plant is not there, the climate will change, and acid rain also can acidify the sea or lake that can disturb the ecosystem in the lake or sea. So the acid rain also can cause the many effect to the environment, such as to the human and animal, and can cause the skin irritation because acid rain pH is 5.5 and below. Okay, so this is volcano. It is a natural source to form the sulfur dioxide. So when the volcano release the sulfur dioxide, it will trap on the atmosphere that can cause the cooling effect. So from the volcano also, the sulfur dioxide will react with the oxygen or water, so it will form acid rain too. So the effect of acid rain, as you know, it will cause the acidify to the sea, at the soil, and it can disturb the ecosystem too. It also can cause drought in Africa and the failure of the plantation or crop.
How aerosol sulfur can affect the climate change. First of all, what is aerosol? Aerosol is a particle in the air that provides when we burn the difference of fossil fuels. For example is coal, petroleum, mining, burning, and many more. Sulfur in atmosphere present some in aerosol. Most commonly are ammonium bisulfate and sulfuric acid. Sulfate aerosols have important role that can change the climate. The carbon dioxide-driven greenhouse effects that provide connections between increases of global temperature and rising emissions carbon dioxide from fossil fuels. It also produces sulfur dioxide as a product in fossil fuels. This can result in the presence of sulfates in atmosphere. Then, it will increase the numbers of particles CCN, where CCN stands for cloud condensation nuclei. This will increase the albedo of the Earth and reduce the temperature that imposed by anthropogenic carbon dioxide emissions. Albedo of the Earth is caused by cloud cover, airborne pollution, and land cover. It is widely varies across the surface because of the differences geological environmental features. In addition, based on CLAW hypothesis, it sees that long-term climate as a part of feedback loop in when warmer temperature will increase the phytoplanktonic activity in ocean. So, higher dimethyl sulfate concentration in atmosphere will increase the sulfates that contain CCN, cloudiness, and albedo. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so hi, I will now explain the real life example of sulfur cycle that usually happen or mostly happen between the land, the ocean and the atmosphere. Now here are one example that happened in Lassen Volcanic National Park in northeastern California that shows the visible of yellowish sulfur deposit near the mouth of the volcanic vent. So here are the pictures that shows the sulfur cycle that happen between the land, oceans and atmosphere. Here there is a part of amino acid system which involve in the formation of the disulfide bonds with proteins. These amino acids will help to determine the 3D folding pattern, hence their function. As you can see, atmospheric sulfur is found in the form of sulfur dioxide, and as the rain falls through the atmosphere, the sulfur will dissolve into the weak sulfuric acid. Upon the death and decomposition of this organism, will release back the sulfur into the atmosphere as the hydrogen sulfide gas. Human activities have played the major role in altering the balance of the global sulfur cycle. Burning of large quantities of fossil fuels such as coal will then release the higher amount of hydrogen sulfide gas into the atmosphere. As rain falls through this gas, it will create the phenomenon called acid rain. The rain, as we all know, is a corrosive rainwater that is fall to the ground through the gas of the sulfur dioxide, which will turn the gas into the weak sulfur acid. Acid rain can cause the damages in aquatic ecosystem as it will lowering the pH of the lake and can kill many of the residents of fauna. Acid rain can also affect the man-made environment through the chemical degradation of buildings. For example, many marble monuments, such as the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., have suffered significant damage from acid rain over the years. Will show the wide-ranging effects of human activities on our environment and the challenges that remain for our future.
Another negative impact from sulfur cycle is acid mining drainage, or AMD. AMD is referred to the outflow of acidic water from mining site. In most cases, this acid is come from the oxidation of iron sulfide. It is a worldwide problem and encouraged by biological feedback loops. This AMD will cause environmental and also economic impact. For environmental impact, the increase of acidity can cause many river systems and former mine sites are totally hospitable of aquatic life, with exception of extremophile bacteria. For instance, in California, the acidic water is passing through the mining site, which is result in periodic fish kill of migrating salmon. Those sites require expensive active maintenance. For economic impact, it will lead many losses to company. For example, the cost of contaminated water, the health associated with acidic water, and also the loss of biological services. Acid rain also can cause by sulfur cycle. As we know, acid rain is a well-known environmental problem. It is ultimately associated with a large emission of the sulfur dioxide to the atmosphere by human sources like oil and also coal-fired power plant. In addition, acid rain also can damage the building and also structures by stripping away the material and corroding the metal that make up this structure. That's why architects will choose limestone, marble, steel, and also brass as durable material intended to resist the element. Industrial areas have reported that pH of acid rain is 2.4. Other than that, acid rain is extremely harmful to forests. Why? Because the seeping of acid rain into the ground can dissolve the nutrients like magnesium and calcium that trees need to be healthy. These losses of nutrition make it easier to get infection, insect, and also cool weather to the tree and also forest. Lastly, damage of lake and stream also affected by acid rain. The increase of acidity and aluminum can be deadly to aquatic wildlife, including phytoplankton and also other creatures that are part of food web. I think that's all for negative impact from sulfur cycle.
For my part, I'm going to explain about the negative impact on human health and agriculture. I'm going to start with the human health. As we know, sulfur particles can be emitted by the factories, mining, or even by volcano eruption. The sulfur particles can be found in the atmosphere and can be inhaled by the human and causes health problems. It will irritate the respiratory tract, mucous membrane, as well as the skin. The study has found that the sulfur particles inhaled by the human has increased the cases of asthma, lungs, and heart disease. The sulfur also results in the symptoms such as pain when coughing, breathing difficulties, throat irritation, as well as dermatological problems. The next part is the negative impact of sulfur in the agriculture field. The sulfur dioxide accumulated in the atmosphere will turn into sulfuric acid, or known as acid rain, when mixed with the moisture in the air. Specifically, the sulfuric acid will lower down the pH of the soil and causes the nutrient leaching. It will decrease the solubility and the availability of the nutrients in the soil, as well as increase the toxicity. On the other hand, the sulfur particles in the atmosphere will be absorbed by the external part of the leaf through stomata. The sulfur particles absorbed will react rapidly with the moisture, forming sulfuric acid in the leaf. In conclusion, the sulfur will cause reduced growth, partial exfoliation,
and bluish look on the plants.
Hello everyone, my name is Mawada binti Abdul Khalik and my metric number is J17A0072. This is the start of the part of lab analysis for our video Sulphur Cycle. The video that we use as our reference can be shown here with its link, and it is about detection of sulfur in organic compounds. As we all know, sulfur is a non-metallic chemical element with the symbol S. It is present in many organic compounds such as thiol and carbon disulfide. It is also present in the antibiotic penicillin and the artificial sweetener saccharin. When sulfur atom is fused with sodium metal, it is converted into ionic sodium sulfide. Ionic sodium sulfide can be extracted by boiling it with distilled water. The product of this process is used for the detection of sulfur in organic compounds. The aim of this lab analysis is to detect the presence of sulfur in organic compounds. There are two tests that can be used to detect sulfur, which are sodium nitroprusside test and lead acetate test. Both of these tests will use leucine extract in the experiments. For the leucine extract, it is when the organic compound is fused with sodium metal. Any halogens, nitrogen, and sulfur will be converted into inorganic sodium salts such as sodium halide, sodium cyanide, and sodium sulfide. Further explanations about the materials and procedure for the two tests and the preparation of a leucine extract will be explained by my team members after this.
Okay, so now I'm going to explain how to prepare leucine extract. So the materials required are first the metallic sodium, distilled water, organic compound given, forceps, fusion tube, rag, tong, dropper, china dish, filter funnel, and filter paper, wire gauze, and tripod stand, and also Bunsen burner. Okay, firstly, for the procedure is, first we take the sodium metal and then we dry it and press between two filter paper. So we press and then we put it into the fusion tube. Precaution, we need to use forceps to insert and not using our hand. Then we burn it on the Bunsen burner. We burn the fusion tube until the sodium melt into shining globule. Okay. Then we insert the organic compound into the fusion tube. Then we heat it to make the mixture react, and then until it turns to red, and we put it into china dish that contain distilled water. Alright, and then we heat the solution in the china dish and evaporate it until it turns to 1/3 from its initial solution, and then we'll filtrate the solution, and the solution is called leucine extract. Okay. So there are a few precautions for this experiment. First, always use forceps when handling the sodium metal because it is highly reactive. Then dry the sodium properly using the filter paper. Then please use dry fusion tube and not the wet one. Then repeat the process of sodium fusion 2 to 3 times to ensure the fusion has taken place. And then always use small amount of distilled water for the extract preparation. Thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is J. Iskandar, and I will present about the method of detection of sulfur in an organic compound. So let's proceed to the presentation. The method used to detect the sulfur in an organic compound is sodium nitroprusside test. The second one is lead acetate test. Sodium nitroprusside test. Material required: leucine extract, sodium nitroprusside solution, test tube, and dropper. The procedure: small portion of leucine extract to the test tube, add a few drops of a sodium nitroprusside using a dropper. The sodium fusion extract react with the sodium nitroprusside, producing sodium thionitroprusside, and its yield a violet color for the indicate the presence of sulfur in organic compound. So the second test is lead acetate test. Material required is leucine extract, acetic acid, lead acetate solution, test tube, and a dropper. The procedure: small portion of leucine extract in the test tube, and a few drops of acetic acid using a dropper. Also, few drops of lead acetate solution. The reaction between three chemicals will produce a black precipitate, indicate the presence of sulfur in the solution. So, the method required, the method used for the sulfur detection in this experiment is two methods. One, sodium nitroprusside test, and the second one is lead acetate test. That's all from me. Thank you.
Why we need to regulate sulfur emission? Sulfur dioxide emission have been a major contributor to ambient air pollution in Chinese cities for many years and are the main causes of acidic precipitation throughout China and many of its most fertile lands in ecological countries. So the key challenges in this case study is that China's economy is extremely dependent on coal, and the demand for it is expected to grow over the next 20 years. About half of China's population relies on coal-fired devices for space heating, and there are more than 400,000 small to medium-sized coal-fired boilers in China in use by industry and commerce. Second is, the capital is limited in China, especially for environmental control investment and in light of competing environmental issues. Third is, institutional capacity for managing air pollution in China is underdeveloped, and most local environmental agencies do not have sufficient capacity to monitor and regulate sulfur emission effectively. From this case study, it can be concluded that there is a clear divide between northern and southern cities and regions in China in terms of impacts of sulfur dioxide and potential solutions. Acid rain is mostly a southern phenomenon, while high ambient SO2 levels are more prevalent in northern cities where winter space heating exacerbates air pollution problems. Second is, regulating large versus small emission sources requires very different policies instruments, and the cost of controlling are significantly different as well. Third is, gaining a better scientific understanding of the impacts of sulfur emission and improving estimates of the relative benefits of different control options are two important pieces of information for leveraging local implementation efforts. This case study indicates that the local government are usually able to identify sulfur control activities that would achieve the required
emission reduction targets of the central government. Next is that to promote policies with multiple benefits is an effective way of cutting sulfur pollution without reliance on regulatory policies or institutions. The marked decline of ambient SO2 levels in many Chinese cities over the past 5 years is largely the result of decrease in coal consumption among small-scale users that have come through widespread urban natural gas investment and through systematic industrial relocation.
Hi, I'm Vishantiran and my metric study is J17800055, and the case study that has been chosen is China air pollution and air rain control, the case of Xinjiang City and the Changsha Triangle area, and the paper was done at October 2003. So the background of this case study is that China adopted national legalization to limit the ambient sulfur dioxide SO2, which is why that in 90s at the region that had been chosen, there have been usage of coal for the generation of electricity. So there has been a lot of emission of SO2 at the region. So this program in this case study is called Two Control Zone, which is TCZ plan, referring to the geographical coverage. Number one, which is the cities which have the high emission of SO2, and number two is the place with serious acidification problem. Acidification problem is acidification is where the pH of the soil, and further on will be discussed. And the target of this case is like for 5 years, which is from 2001 to 2005, and is under the plan for environmental protection. The main reason of the protection is to reduce the emission of SO2 level, and number two is that make a standard for the SO2 level at the soil and also other places, because like they want to have a better for the residents and so on. The objective of this case study is that to help the localities in China address several questions related to the planning and implementation of SO2 emission and also acid rain. By what does it mean is like they want the localities to know what is the problem that have been caused and also how it caused, and also they want to let them know that governments are taking the correct order to make the problem to be reduced or not. For number two, they want to provide a forum of discussion with the central government, primarily SEPA. So like they know they can have a proper conversation with the government and also the locals, so that they can have to come to one agreement and so on. So this paper, there's been two case study inside the paper. So like the first case study is done at Shijiazhuang, and the number two case study is done at Changsha. Shijiazhuang is the control of this case study. Shijiazhuang is located at southwest of Beijing, and is more to municipal areas, like largely rural area region. And number two, which is the case study number two, is at Changsha. Changsha region is like more to crop, is like more to farm. So like the acidification process and also the problem will arise from that and so on. Thank you.